Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. It wasn't pretty, but Tennessee gets the 17-13 win against Kentucky because, well, they always beat Kentucky. And I'll just go ahead and apologize to our viewers north of the border who watch. Hey, yeah, you're just not going to beat Tennessee. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad. It doesn't matter if Tennessee's good or bad. It's amazing. It's just in the stars. The Vols have now won 3 straight games. They opened 1-4, and they've gone 4-1 since. Pretty impressive. I wouldn't have guessed that was coming. We'll discuss all of that. We'll also have some basketball talk with Mark Pankratz. Let's get into our first segment. It's brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. And, folks, they really do it all. Junk removal. They have a 2-man uniform team that will come to your house and do the work for you. Dumpster rentals. That's if you want a 15-yard driveway dumpsters. I do that every year. These things are huge. Paper shredding services of every kind for your business, for your home if you need that. And they even do demolition work. Barns, sheds, you name it, they can blow it up and get her out of there. Junk Be Gone. Well, they probably won't blow it up, but you know what I'm saying. JunkBeGone.biz to learn more. Give them a call this week. Check out their website today, preferably at about 12:31. All right, let me welcome in the first wave of panelists for today's show. We have Bob Hodge. We have Will Overstreet. We have Jimmy Himes. And back from out of town, we have Mike Stoll. Always appreciate you coming in on Tennessee's road games. First, once again, Kentucky, you're just Kentucky. I was amazed last night. You've got a running quarterback. You're running well. He's not a passer. So you've just had a 4th down conversion. You've pretty much shown that if you run it 4 straight downs, you're getting a first down. So what do? You take your wide receiver and you say, hey, let's throw across the middle. Yeah. Interception. They were lucky that one was called back. And then late in the game, 4th and 3. Again, you've run with success all day. 4th and 3. What do? Deep ball. Let's chuck her down there. I watched that and I thought, and that's Kentucky being Kentucky against Tennessee. Now, in terms of 33 losses for the Cats in 35 years against the Vols. Yeah. Now, on to Tennessee. Wasn't a great first half by any stretch. Defense got pushed around. The Kentucky was falling forward. They were pushing the pile. The triple option that Eddie Gran threw in that Tennessee hadn't seen gave them fits. But they came out in the second half, made their adjustments, stacked the box, dared them to throw, and turned that thing around. Grade the defense for me. Do you give them a huge grade because they only gave up 13 points? 7 and 6 of those were off a turnover deep. Or do you ding them because they gave up 300 yards rushing to a team that you knew was going to run it? What kind of grade do you give the Kentucky defense?
How about you give them both? You give them an A.
Your Cavaliers in the question. He's in later.
You give them an A for giving up 13 points. You give them a C- for giving up 300 yards, and it comes out to about a B-. And that's what you did. I mean, you gave up a lot of yards. Thankfully, Kentucky did exactly what you said and had some boneheaded calls in there. But I think it was a B-. C- for the yards, A for 13 points.
Okay.
I'm slightly higher on the grade, not much. I'd go B. I give Kentucky some credit for having a week off and coming in with some different plays that threw Tennessee off a little bit. I give Tennessee credit for the adjustment. I give them credit for forcing 3 4th down opportunities in the fourth quarter that Kentucky didn't convert. The bottom line, the 13 points. So I'd go a little bit higher on the grade with the defense. And I thought that goal line stand was terrific. Even though the dumb 12 men on the field put it on the 1-yard line, you still held them out. So I'd go B.
And toe-to-toe with the 3rd down stop, just mano a mano.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. Will, that first half, sitting there wondering, why are your DBs so far off the ball here? What are you up to? I was a little surprised at Tennessee's that's a coaching decision. I mean, the alignment of their DBs in particular, but they weren't ready for the triple option, but it wouldn't have taken me that long. I wouldn't have had to go to halftime to say stack the box.
Yeah, I thought could have been adjusted a little bit faster, but overall, if you really look at it, they had one huge series at the beginning of that game that took over most of the time. And you had 2 bad plays. I mean, you had 2 offsides that if you put them in 3rd and 7 on their side of the 50, you got a good chance to get them off the field right there. They're going to punt on that 4th down. So you had two mistakes that were big of guys jumping off sides, which I have no idea why they're jumping off sides because, you're not expecting these guys to get off. You don't need to be pass rushing right there. But I looked at it overall as that this team, they came out once they saw and got comfortable with what was happening. They made the adjustments, and then they were able to go from there. So I'd give this team B+. You still have to look at it and say, hey, you gave up too many yards. You lost containment on a lot of runs, even in the second half, especially for whatever reason on the left side of your defense was not good. I thought Darrell Taylor, you sometimes can't tell based on what the play, you don't know what the play is called, but I thought he didn't have a great game. So overall, though, when you only hold a team to 13 points, you have that many stops, you got to call it a B+ at the worst case.
What are you saying, Mike?
I look at what they did early on, and they didn't, as they came out in that first drive and they ran the ball, I knew they would struggle because you're facing option teams. It takes them a little bit while to adjust to it, to see the formations. I give them a B overall because I do agree they didn't adjust soon enough, but they had one long drive. The other one was on a muffed punt, basically. Yeah. They got short field. After that, they bowed their necks and held in pretty well. And then the Tennessee offense helped them out. But they were on the field for 21 minutes in the first half, and they still in the second half had a lot of jump in their step, which shows that that's pretty tough to do, be on the field that long.
Well, in the fourth quarter, what were they, like 11 minutes on the field in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. And still bowed up there.
And so my B- was negative.
I'll give them a B. I think I'll give them a B. And the reason being that yards don't matter. I mean, as poorly as they got pushed around at times, if that were Tennessee on offense and they ran for 300 yards and put up 13 points, we'd be dinging that offense pretty good because it's points that matter. Interesting stat we've got here. I talked about this earlier this year. Versus the 9 most balanced offenses he has faced in 2 years, Tennessee is 1-8 for its defense, allowing 37 points per game. But their number dropped last night in terms of their 8 most run-heavy offense. One of them was last night. They're now 5-3 against those teams, those one-dimensional run teams, giving up 17 points per game fewer. That's when they face a one-dimensional team, they do take advantage of it, which you're supposed to. But clearly, 17 points is a pretty big difference in terms of your average. When you're talking 9 games, 8 games, that's not a small sample. Let's talk about Jarrett Guarantano. Just overall, your thoughts on it's been a bizarre season, no question. The expectations were here. He didn't live up to them. Hit the rock bottom at Alabama, and yet they've stood beside him. They've stuck with him, and he's continued to deliver. He delivers last night. He calls, they call him the sixth man, as he says last night. Says he doesn't care when he comes in as long as the team wins. In the postgame, he took a lot of blame for earlier in the. You can't put the Georgia State and BYU losses all on him by any stretch, but he said, "Put it on me." Just your thoughts on a kid that a lot of former Vols, especially social media, thought he should never play again after Alabama. And I'm not going to argue with that. I certainly could see that side of it. And yet, and maybe it was aided by the fact that Maurer was hurt. Maybe it was aided by the fact that this coaching staff sees what they got in practice and knows how limited they are with the other guys. They stood by Guarantano, and he has rewarded them for the most part. Thoughts on his season to date, just the story of Jarrett Guarantano?
I think it's a great story, and I give him a lot of credit for that. I mean, he could have easily tucked his tail and not worked hard or not tried to get back in there. Look, he helped them beat Mississippi State. He helped them beat South Carolina, and he really helped them beat Kentucky. I mean, to me, he saved the Kentucky game, which in essence really saved their bowl potential to me. So I give him a lot of credit for hanging in there and not getting down when all the distractions were out there and all the detractors were out there. I thought he played really well that third quarter, too.
I give him a tremendous amount of credit for the intestinal fortitude that he has. Think about it. If you're 20 years old and you got people on Facebook and social media saying, you are awful, you're terrible, you suck, you're the worst quarterback ever to play at the University of Tennessee, and he comes out and he keeps playing, right? So think about going through that at 20 years of age, having to withstand that. Although, some of it's self-inflicted. Yes, he's made bad decisions, but we all do at that age. But for him to come through, I'm not saying he should be the starting quarterback or the quarterback from here on out, but what he went through and how he has come through, that's a tough task to take. And he has taken it with just incredible pride and incredible self-reliance.
Well, he had, to further what you said, 20, 21-year-old kid. He had national media folks pointing out, here's where he went rogue. This is where he blew it. Now, I don't think Tennessee wins that game, even if they score there. But that, I don't know what I would have done. I think I'd have just climbed under the sheets and stayed there for a month. That's impressive, the fact he withstood that and came back. Your thoughts on his story? I'll give you 30 seconds each.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's going to serve him a lot later in life, because going through that and having to do that, what he's done, and mentally stay through something and continue to work, I mean, that obviously sets you up in any place and phase of your life. But more than that, just continuing to see how he gets a little bit better each game, because he has improved. I mean, yesterday was his most athletic game. He hadn't run the ball like that and been able to make those plays with his feet at any point during this year. And all of a sudden last night, he added that to his game. He was decisive. When he wanted to run, he ran and knew what he was going for. Whether it was 3 yards or the first down, he was making better decisions yesterday. So he's continued to do that. You have to give him a lot of credit.
The assumption is he's gone after the end of this year. He's won 3 games for you basically in the SEC. Do you really want him gone at the end of this year?
Right now, I hear fans screaming yes. There are still people saying, how did you take Maurer out yesterday?
I'm just saying, he's the one that's won these games for you. Seemingly.
You and your facts. All right, we'll come back. We'll look at some facts. I got ripped on Friday for just posting some numbers. Apparently, I was leading the charge for Guarantano's Heisman campaign. Well, we're going to look at those numbers because they kind of look smart now. We'll show you these next. Who's the best quarterback on the roster? But who should be starting? The answer might not be the same. Come on back.